Say when you passing by, flowers droop and sigh, and I know the reason why. You're much sweeter, goodness knows, honeysuckle.
Well, my next guest has been known to not always get a rose from a friend, but instead questions or maybe even physical, like destroyed plants and bugs, because she knows a lot as a plant doctor, as an expert who's written all kinds of books and has written for a syndicated magazine. She's known nationally on TV and radio. Melinda Myers, great to have you here.
Great to be here with you, Cindy, and thanks for giving me the opportunity to chat. Nice to chat with you and the listeners as well.
Well, we have lots to cover, and I know that with your background in horticulture and you're a certified arborist and you have all kinds of good info, so we really want to get smart with you. And one of your things is about helping our lawn look better and just be healthier, but in an eco-friendly way. And so how do you define that?
You know, a good point. I think lawns have, they do some good things by cleaning the air and cooling the environment, but they're not always the most eco-friendly plant to grow, especially the way we've managed. So I think it's re-looking at them. And if you're going to have a lawn, you want to have a lawn that's going to be suited to your environment. I was on a lawn in Fresno not too long ago, and it was beautiful. It was the middle of the summer, and I said, rhizomaceous tall fescue, right? And they said, exactly. Tall fescues have been used for years in the South and in the West because they're very heat and drought tolerant, and they don't need a lot of fertilizer. But they're clumpers, so they weren't the prettiest lawn grasses. Well, they've introduced rhizomaceous, so they spread just like a bluegrass and a fescue, so they make a better turf stand, and so they're a little more drought tolerant. Buffalo grass is a native grass that's very heat and drought tolerant. A little slow to establish. Anything that doesn't require a lot of mowing means it's going to take a little longer to get established, but it's going to be more heat and drought tolerant. So if you're starting a lawn, you may want to minimize the areas that you have grass and maximize the areas you're using native plants, but then use a turf grass that's going to use less water. And then mowing at the right height. You'd be amazed by just putting your mower at the highest possible mowing height, the difference you're going to see in your lawn. Taller grass, deeper roots, better able to fend off insects and disease, and more drought tolerant. So if you decide, you know what, we're going to really push it to its limits, that grass that's taller is going to stay growing longer during hot, dry spells, and really it's going to grow better for you, and you'll need less water in the long run because you're going to water thoroughly and less frequently to encourage good deep roots. So if you are watering, that's the key. Not a little bit every day, but thoroughly. Oh,
and we see so many of it. I mean, we're all guilty of it. Someone's standing out there, woo, with the the hose.
I call it the one soda beer beverage of your choice method. You come home from work, you get out a beverage, you get out the hose, you got the vegetable garden, flowers, lawn, you're done. By the time you finish your beverage, you're in the house feeling good.
Yep.
And doing nothing for the plants. Absolutely right, Cindy.
Right. It does more for us, I guess. It's almost almost therapy to look at the pretty water. It sparkles on the grass.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And the other thing you could do to save energy, well, if I can't convince you to use a push mower, an electric mower, and then always have a sharp blade no matter what your mower. You'll greatly reduce the gas consumption because it'll be a faster cut, use less energy. Your grass, the wounds close quicker, loses less moisture, so better for the lawn, better for the environment, and better for you, too.
So you mentioned that you've been to Fresno, so obviously you're aware of Southern California, even though Fresno's a little bit further ahead, but they are they're hot. Fresno is hot, more in the central part of the state, but we get plenty warm. And so you mentioned buffalo grass is a good choice for California.
Native. Zoysia grass is another one that they keep trying to sell to northerners, which, it likes the heat, it likes the dry, it forms a nice dense stand, tends to keep the weeds out, and you can allow it to go dormant. You're going to have more weeds when it comes out of dormancy, and you're going to have it not looking as good, but Zoysia is just going to give you good heat and drought tolerance, just like the buffalo grass as well. And so those are some good choices in terms of really trying to find something a little more suited if you are going to grow grass.
So are those are the two ultimate choices for Californians or Southern Californians?
Southern California, definitely. The University of California has a great website, and they talk about turf grass, and they divide up the state. I always laugh. I worked in Encinitas one summer, and And I always laugh because California, you have so many different growing environments in such a,
We do.
It's amazing. And one of the nice things the University of California has done is really divided it up. So if you really are looking for lawns, they've divided up on the grasses and the timing for fertilization. And I think the other thing I wanted to mention is fertilization. With the hot weather grasses, really your fall fertilization is going to give you the biggest value. And when you do fertilize, use a low nitrogen, organic nitrogen fertilizer. I'm a big fan of Milorganite. It's 5% nitrogen, slow release. It's an organic source. So when we hit a hot, dry spell, it sits in the soil. It does nothing until the conditions are right for the plant to grow. The microorganisms will work on the Milorganite and release it for the plant, so you won't burn, which is huge. 2% phosphorus that's tied up in the soil doesn't leach, but it's available to the plants, and no potassium. But what they found on research in sandy soils, in fact, and they did the research in Florida, was that when the microorganisms work on that, it releases phosphorus and potassium in the soil, and we generally have a lot of it because we've used 10-10-10, 12-12-12 fertilizers forever. And so it helps release that, so you're really getting added value by making it available to the plants instead of adding more that's tied up to the soil.
All right. What about weed control? Because here we're talking about trying to have an eco-friendly lawn. It's kind of a it's love-hate.
Huh?
Yeah.
Well, one of the things is, your tolerance of weeds is one issue. I think if you want golf course quality, you're going to spend a lot more time, and you may have to look at the environment. If you just want to keep your feet from getting muddy when it rains, again, keeping the grass tall, digging by hand. I know that sounds putsy, but depending on how large your lawn. The good news is there are some more and more eco-friendly products coming on the market. Pre-emergent, using corn gluten meal. It prevents seeds from germinating, grass seed as well as many of the weed seeds. And research is showing a couple of applications a year for several years will greatly reduce your weed problem. Won't kill the existing weeds, but prevents those weed seeds from germinating.
And that's called pre-emergent.
Right, and it's corn gluten meal. So pre-emergent meaning before the seeds, as they're sprouting, it interferes with them sprouting, prevents them from growing.
Okay.
And there's a lot of people are used to maybe the pre-emergent crabgrass killers and those kind of things. Well, this is corn gluten meal. It's got nitrogen, so a little bit of fertilization, very good for the environment. And a brand new product that just came out this year, and honestly, I'm just trying it for the first time in my yard, is a chelated iron. And the active ingredient is a chelated iron. And it's at a level that it won't hurt the grass, but it does burn the broadleaf weeds. Now, check the label to make sure the grass you're growing won't be affected. But typically it acts like a greening agent. And so it's at a level that kills the broadleaf weed, top and root, but not your grass. And that's a huge breakthrough because most of the other eco-friendly killers would burn out the tops of both the grass and the weed. And so it really, you'd end up with those brown spots, just like the crazy people using the Roundup. And if you're one of them, I apologize, not you, but your listeners, not offending you. No, we've all made those mistakes in the past.
Yeah.
But, you end up with brown spots. And this is something that's more selective. So the good news is I think we're finding more and more people companies trying to help us be more environmentally friendly out there. And, you may not have the perfect lawn, and I don't know that you need a perfect lawn, but I think you can still have a beautiful lawn and be kind to the environment as well.
Well, I think that your idea of trying to find the right kind of grass is a smart start, right? That's going to work with you instead of against you. And then to have a smaller area of grass is cool. But there's still a lot of us that are feeling a lot of guilt, Melinda, of either just losing the lawn entirely, and we've been talking about a lot of folks with beautiful edible front yards, which is very exciting, and maybe even faux grass. I mean, as you travel the country, are you seeing a trend to just lose the lawn entirely?
I am, and my daughter. I have a small city lot. My daughter's now an adult, but growing up, she swore she'd have to go to psychological counseling because we didn't have a lawn just between the sidewalk and the curb. Because I'm like you, I've been growing vegetables in my front yard for 30 years now, and flowers, grass, flowers. I live next to a park. Go play over there. And I managed her for the city of Milwaukee, so it's always followed me around. But faux grass is a solution. I mean, I think it's one of those options that allows you to put a mulch on the soil So you're holding the soil intact. You're still keeping it cooler because anything mulching is going to keep it cooler, and that is an option to reduce your water use. So, it's kind of on what you're trying to accomplish. Then if you are watering early in the day, only as needed and thoroughly. I see too often people watering during the rain, after the rain, people calling and saying, well, my lawn, I think something's wrong, and they've overwatered or they've watered incorrectly. And so I think you're right. I think there's alternatives out there. And a lot of research is happening right now for more drought-tolerant grasses.
Very encouraging. Well, Melinda, don't go away. We have more questions for you. We're talking with all-around great gardening guru and plant doctor on radio and TV, and has written all kinds of articles around the country. We're going to answer more questions and get some ideas on how to just do some great, terrific things, some strategies to bring birds and butterflies to your garden and more. Talking with Melinda Myers. I'm Cindy Dole. This is Home Wizards. The number is 888-539-2980. Maybe you have a gardening dilemma. Call on in. We're here to help, and we're back after this. Welcome back. Cindy Dole here, and we love our music here on Home Wizards, and hopefully giving you a little sparkle in your step and a smile on your face as you're out and about on your Saturday. Maybe you're out in the garden, working in the yard, or putzing in the garage, who knows what, but we're glad you're listening and sharing part of your weekend with us, because we're celebrating Dad, and we're getting all kinds of fun ideas to make the spaces you call home better. The number is 888-539-2980, 888-539-2980, and if you have a gardening question, Melinda Myers can answer pretty much anything. She's got more than 30 years of horticultural experience, written over 20 gardening books, and is on TV and radio, and so fun to have you here, Melinda.
It's great to be with you, and it's good to talk gardening. It's such a unifying concept. When you're into plants, you're bound to find someone else in the group. Everyone's grown or killed or has a question about them.
Yeah, and it makes you happy, don't you think?
Oh,
I mean,
it does.
Even if you've made a mistake, overall it's all good,
You bring up a really good point. There's been a lot of research independently done by universities that shows the value of landscaping, and Project Evergreen has a great website that talks about the value of gardening. As a gardener, you know how good you feel when you're done, but they find that kids have less problems with ADHD, and that girls that grow up in a landscaped environment tend to be more self-confident. Cut flowers can generate a smile in, I think it's either 7 or 15 seconds. So,
oh, really?
Yes, it's amazing. So all those things we thought were true as gardeners, they've researched, and yes, in fact, more benefits. I mean, it's just amazing all the good things that gardening do for us, not only the environment and
well, and it slows your blood pressure down, too.
Exactly. And less road rage in areas where there's lots of good landscaping along the freeways.
I have to get my nails done more often, which kind of raises the blood pressure.
Exactly.
But that's okay. I'll balance this out in the end. Well, you've written a book, one of the many, that I think is going to really perk a nerve for a lot of us, and that's small space gardening. And the book was Can't Miss Small Space Gardening. And so people who are feeling, I don't have an area to garden, I'm not a gardener, what would you say to them?
You know what, there's always space. Those that don't even have a balcony or deck, we're going to have to work on at least bringing plants indoors for you. But if you have a balcony or deck, even a windowsill, you can do a windowsill herb garden, or you can do some greens indoors with a nice sunny window. But boy, you can cram a lot of beauty into a very small space. And I've always been a small space gardener, living in the city, living in apartments, depending on containers. I grow vegetables mixed with flowers and herbs, and I love the idea of bringing it right on your deck or your balcony. So whether it's going out to the from the kitchen to harvest, or maybe pick a few things that you're going to cook up on the grill, having that connection with your food preparation, huge. Throw in a few flowers, beautiful environment. Go vertical, training things up on a wall, up on a fence. And I laugh. I just gave a presentation on container gardening, and I said, the vertical walls were mainly an idea for people who had bad backs and bad knees 30 years ago. And I said, now, if you have a bad back or bad knees, you don't have to confess. You just say, I'm hip and trendy, because vertical gardens are all the rage, So even if you just have a wall, you can garden now, which is just so exciting to bring that greenery right up where you can enjoy it.
It is. Well, we have a caller coming in. Let's go to the phones, Melinda. Michael is joining us from Newport Beach. Hey, Michael.
Hi.
Hi. It looks
I
like
enjoy your program a lot. I guess you have my question. I have some lemon and lime trees. They used to have a lot of leaves on them. Now they're pretty bare. They do give fruits, but not a lot. But I see other citrus trees that got a lot of leaves, foliage, but mine doesn't.
Mm-hmm.
One of the things you might want to start with is a soil test. You know, I'm really big on improving our soil using compost and organic matter, improves drainage for heavy soils, improves water holding capacity for well-drained sandy soils, adds some nutrient. But it's really important to find out what you have in your soil. And if you start with a soil test, and the Extension Service can help you in terms of get it to a state-certified lab, they can tell you what you've got in the soil and what you need to add, if anything. And I think one of the big things we can do to be kind to the environment is make sure that we're only adding the nutrients we need. You know, we're kind of a society that if a little's good, more is better, and that's often the worst thing we can do for the health of our plants. And so you might want to start with a soil test, first of all, because that'll tell you if that's an issue. Then looking for insect and disease problems, you know, boring insects and scale and things like that that can put stress on plants can also interfere with production of leaves. But the fact you don't have really good leafing on the plant makes me feel it's stressed to some degree. Start with the soil, then take a closer look to see if you've got any insect pests that might be adding to the stress and interfering with leaf development as well as flowering and fruiting.
And what about sunlight, too?
Good point, yeah. Anytime, that's excellent. You know, sun is so important. I kind of a rule of thumb when you're growing fruits and vegetables. If you're eating the leaves of your vegetables, lettuce, spinach, chard, they're the most shade tolerant. They can get by with the least amount of light, like 4 hours. If you're eating the roots, beets and turnips and carrots, like 4 to 6. They'll all take full sun, but, you know, at least 4 to 6. But if you're eating the fruit, 8 hours, 10 hours, 12 hours, even better. So thanks for mentioning that, Cindy. So light's a huge consideration.
Michael, hope that helps you. Yeah, because, I mean, we have citrus in containers, and for us, the challenge can be season to season if we aren't paying attention. Light, number one, because we live in one of these yards where it has almost like two different climates. You know what I mean? Like literally
right.
For 6 months of the year, we got to shift all the containers to another area so they get more sun. It's great.
I love it, the moving garden.
It is. It totally is. It should be on wheels. But then the other thing is you know, when it's in a container, it can lose a lot of those nutrients. You know, we're flushing out all those great fertilizers. You know,
exactly, and that's a good point. If you're in containers, incorporating a slow-release fertilizer when you plant or using it on the soil surface. I'm kind of a low-maintenance, not lazy gardener, so I like anything that when I water, I'm releasing the nutrients, as well as, you know, if you're going to use a quick release, make sure it's suited for the plant and follow the directions. So good point. If it's a container, moisture critical, fertilizing critical, and now I'm going to picture you every time I think of you, Cindy, moving those planters, migrating to the sun.
And it wasn't an earthquake; it was just Cindy's house. They were just shifting over everything to the sun. Well, we only have a couple minutes left. Is there some one thing that you are just so excited about right now in gardening that isn't on our radar screen that we should try and think about?
There is. There's a whole new class of products called plant strengtheners. And one product developed in California actually is Jazz Spray. And what's cool is scientists found that plants produce certain enzymes when they're under attack or under stress. They've isolated them, found that when they apply it to the plants in general, that it's like an immunization. It strengthens, it makes them stronger and tougher, better able to deal with heat and drought and cold stress, better able to fend off insects and diseases. Doesn't kill them, it just makes them stronger. They've got a rose spray that rosarians are swearing by. It's reduced the use of pesticides. I'm a shrub rose grower, so I avoid the problem. But their plant strengthener general product, great results. So if you're having trouble getting things established, you know, like check your soil, do all the right things, but it's an immunization that's really shown great results. And research shows, like crab apples that are resistant to scab have more of that enzyme. So it's really something we're naturally taking from the plant, reapplying, building up the strength of our plants, a new tool in our toolbox as gardeners. And I think I'm excited because It's eco-friendly, it's natural, and it gives us one more thing we can use to be environmentally friendly.
Well, your website has so many great tips. Check her out. It's Melinda Myers, and it's MYERS, like the lime.
That's right.
MelindaMyers.com. My tip is to get milkweed. I'm all about the monarch butterfly this year, and so we're having fun. Do you have milkweed yet?
Great point. I had milkweed in my yard, and somebody goes, "That's a weed." And I said, "Well," and I told them about the monarchs. They go, "Okay, we're keeping it."
Exactly. Well, again, in the container, you shift it from side to side.
Good point.
Melinda, we'll talk to you again soon. You're fun, and have a great weekend, okay?
Thanks so much, Cindy.
You got it. All right, we're not done yet. We're just getting started because we got our two Home Wizards coming your way right after this. And, Dad, we've got some fun things for you, I promise. I'm Cindy Dole, and this is Home Wizards. Don't go away. More after this.